Hi, it's Anthony from CarPlayLife, and today we're doing a big change in the Golf. Nice to be back in a car for a change. As some of you might have heard on my Twitter and a few other social media channels and some comments on some of my YouTube videos, I've decided to go from an Android head unit in the Golf back to stock. One of the things I wanted to do when I went from MIB1 in the Golf when I first bought it in 2016, that I was going to do a MIB1 to an MIB2 install, and money wise it was quite expensive for something I was prepared to do without touching the car ever before. So I decided to speak with someone else, a few other people at the start of CarPlayLife, and Alpine luckily installed their X902D-G7 in my Golf at the time. So I drove up to Coventry, they installed it. It was a great system. It was a 9-inch display, but its resolution wasn't brilliant and it didn't do wireless CarPlay amongst a few other things. But it was a nice post-stock solution that was relatively reasonably priced at the time. So I had that for a couple of years, and then I decided to change that with the help of Dasaita, who supplied their VIVD 10 system. And it's probably been nearly a year now since I've had that in the Golf, and honestly I don't think I really utilised a lot of the Android features. I always went back to certain stock based things such as selecting modes, selecting system menu type things, and obviously CarPlay is the overriding infotainment part of that, so I wasn't really using much of the YouTube functionality, and just generally I didn't really utilize the Android section part of it really. And the resolution, even though it was high, CarPlay still showed a low resolution of that. And the biggest fundamental issue with me and using the Android system, specifically the Dasaita one, others might be a little bit different, but with this one, with only being one of the options for the Golf that was more integrated with the Facia, is that anything related to Siri or calling or messages, it didn't have its own volume. So basically, as you're driving at say volume 10, you'll get a volume 10 or less version of Siri navigation messages and things like that will come over. You couldn't override it as you can do with stock. It just didn't have an independent volume for Siri or messages based communication through your system. So you'd increase the volume in Siri and things like that just to hear what it was saying. Same with directions, so that was another reason why I wanted to change this. Directions would just be almost mute, and you couldn't hear them. The music would disappear where the audio would come through, and basically you wouldn't hear it. So that was the fundamental flaw for me. And then since then, it's the VIVD system will kick back in, even though you've used a custom launcher like the CarWeb Guru and Nova launcher, which is what I was using fundamentally. The VIVD system would kick back in, override everything, create a bunch of warnings and permissions just because of the Android platform. And it just created a little bit of friction for me, and I'm not driving as often as I do now. So it's just basically, I decided to go and give stock an option. So now that the MIB platform is moved on to version 3, which has wireless CarPlay, but unfortunately to retrofit that is quite difficult. Not many people have done it. I think not many people have done it successfully. I might be wrong. If you have done it successfully in a Golf 7, let me know in the comments. I would like to hear about that. But as far as 2.5 goes of the stock system, that's doable. So I started researching a lot of that, and I got all the various hardware bits that you needed, and got the best price, ordering it from Germany in some places, and that caused a bit of a delay in getting this video out as well, having to wait for that, and just general lots of work I've had to do. So I should have had this out a couple of months ago really, but I've only got until today where it's nice and warmer outside, so I can actually work in the car. I can now fulfill this install. So what I've gone for is an MIB 2.5 unit system, which is a 9-inch display, and so I'm going back to a 9-inch display from a 10.2-inch display. But what I've realized with the VIVD Android system is that resolution is more important than screen size. When you get to a certain screen size, you tend to really want to have a high resolution with smaller interfaces. More buttons can then show in CarPlay, and specifically with the stock 2.5 system, MIB 2.5, its resolution is higher. So you get 12 icons instead of 8 icons in the system. So you actually get to see more that way. Also, you kind of get to see all the stock options will then come back. Everything will start to look a little bit better. I think the DAB system in this Android unit wasn't really that brilliant either, especially FM. I couldn't get FM that well on this system. I don't know if it's the system creating interference, but I really couldn't get some just basic FM stations that I could normally get with my pre-Alpine, and obviously my stock system works just as well as that as well. And I'm not sure about GPS might have been okay, but I'm really looking forward to going back to stock. Hopefully I've got every single bit I need. I really researched into it, but I have a feeling I do need one cable, and I'll chime in on that if I actually do need that cable, because I think it went with my original system. So I'm starting this today nice and slow and calm, documenting this in my channel. So if you're thinking of doing the same install as this, I should have everything you need to know on how to do that install. It's going to be a bit different for you maybe, because I'm going to be coming from a Android head unit, but the removal process is going to be very similar in terms of the things that you need to unscrew. You just probably will have the wiring in a different location to where you'll see it in this video, and obviously it depends on what system you previously had as well, because if you didn't have like I think mine was a Pro Navigation MIB one, so I might have obviously I've got DAB and things like that with aerials and certain connections, so I'm going to reutilize those as well. Right, so I hope you enjoy this video. First things first, I'm going to have to go through my Android system and completely format everything so it wipes all my credentials and logins from that system, because I do plan on selling this on. That'll be the first job. Right, so I've formatted the Android head unit. Next thing is to take out the tray at the bottom, which is very straightforward. So first things first, you have to take off this panel here. So that's just already on that. It's got a couple of things. You just yank at it. You really can't do any damage. You need to take this, the drawer upwards first, and then you can then grab the edges of it and put it towards you on both sides. And then this thing comes out, and then you can disconnect these bits here. These come from the Alpine, so this will be coming out completely for me, and I'm going to be installing the stock cable that came with the MIB 2.5 unit, and that will come in there instead to be completely all official. After that, a couple of hooks in the side here, some display trim removal hooks that I recommend that you get, and get rid of all these, and then this will then slide out. We need to take that out and then make sure that car's not on when we remove this, and then we put it back on, and then we can start the car if you need to, but you really shouldn't need to until you put the actual whole unit back on. And then after that, a couple of screws in here. I think it's like 6 screws, one in the side here. I have to open up the door to open up that so I can get access to the last screw for the glove box, and then I think this side panel here has to come out again if I remember correctly, and then we can start looking into installing the new unit. So this just comes out just like that. Unhook these, take this whole part out, and then you have to make sure that you connect these back up before you turn the car back on, otherwise you'll get a permanent lamp on that you can't remove. So make sure you do that. So I've just taken out the harness that connects to the one that you got with the Dasaita unit, and we've got the various DAB aerials here, FM, this is the Wi-Fi antenna, and the whole thing comes out in one big carcass, which is going to be similar to what you have. Lost a couple of clips here, so you need to bear that in mind. So don't lose those. If you don't have a fascia that doesn't come with this unit, the replacement, you need to make sure that you make good with this one, because these cost a bit, and you want to make sure that you haven't damaged it. Also, you need to save the silver part of the grille here, because you don't get that in some fascias either, and if you want to have that trim back, you'll have to reuse that. These clips are very fragile, so be careful when you're unclipping all these. So I'm going to disconnect all these bits here and get this main unit out. Make sure that you plug this back in, just in case you were to start the car again for some reason. Just make sure that you reconnect that up. Now I've got this little USB cable that I'm going to keep here for the next install. Here are the clips. We're missing one here, so that's probably what's come out of this one. So I'm just going to put that back in. That's fine, these are okay. So I'm going to dismantle all the old cables because I won't be needing those now, because these are the ones that I got from eBay. Right, so I have removed all this, reconnected that just in case, and all everything's out of here. These are all the stock like DAB, FM and GPS cables here. This is connected to the harness. This is going to come out very soon, and this is a HDMI cable that's got stuck around the back here, so these two things are going to come out. I've unearthed some old cables, probably from the MIB unit. These are going to go into the brains, because I think two of them are at least catered for, I think. There's something down here for this, but I think this is all old legacy stuff, so we probably won't be using that, so we'll probably tuck that so it doesn't rattle. And there's another one here as well, green one. We won't be using that either. And yeah, next is this bad boy. So a couple of screws here and there around the top and bottom, and then this drops out to reveal the fuse board behind, and then you can whip this out as well, and it's all going to be hanging down, and we'll have access to that. And then using these tools that I've got here, we'll take all this side here off and get rid of that. Right, first things first, to get this down, you need to get out a little switch here, which you need to push up, little plastic one. You need to push that up and then that will come down, but it's going to trap your finger. So what I recommend is get a screwdriver to push that up, otherwise you're going to trap your finger and it really hurts. Right, so undoing those clips here and here, this whole thing will now come all the way down, and if yours is like mine and you've done this a few times, this will come out of this little section here, which is basically like a soft closing, or in this case soft opening, for the glove box. So when you put this back on, make sure that that is inside here properly, so that these little gears can slow the whole thing down. But for me, it always pops out when this drops down, so you have to make sure that this goes in like that, and it will ratchet in, and then it'll be nice and smooth when you drop the glove box. So next is to hack at some screws. So I think it's one's in here, 2, and then 3, and then there's going to be, I think, a couple down here, and then this whole thing will come out, and then you can get at the harness that's in here. So we'll do that now. Right, so you don't have to necessarily undo this and take this whole thing all the way down. I forgot there's 3 across the top, and there's 2 roughly about here and here. You can see that, but they'll come up. This end is quite loose, but you now need to go into this panel here, which just pops off. You just need to, and then there'll be a screw there which is attaching to this, and then there's a bit of a light that you need to disconnect as well, so I'll show you that. So here's the last bolt, so I'll undo that, ignore this, this is one of mine, and the whole thing should drop out. Right, this little cable here, that's basically the light for the glove box. You have to make sure that you disconnect that, otherwise it's going to really tug at the light, and make sure that you reattach that when you put the whole glove box back on again. So this is all now loose. The only thing that's holding this up is the harness probably. Oh, we've got like a little hose for the AC into the glove box, so you need to disconnect that. So little rubber hose, disconnect that from that bit there at the front. And then there's another socket here, but I kind of like had this in the footwell. I didn't really bother disconnecting all these things, but it's up to you whether you want to take the whole thing out or not. But I just disconnected this one because that's
at the very front here. Everything else can pretty much stay where it is because all we need is to get at this bad boy here. So this is the harness. Now we can disconnect the one that was originally plugged in. So this lever's up and the whole thing will disconnect like so. So that's now gone. This is the one from the Dasaita. This is going to go into the MIB 2.1 unit, and all this can get pulled out now. I think Alpine tied all this up to make it more of a tidy install, so I might have to cut those ties back. It's tied there, and just to get so that we can actually bring it back into the main head unit, because I think that's going to be quite a tight fit through there, so we won't be able to do that. I can't quite see any more cables other than a little set here, so I'm going to bring all that through. So we've got some excess cables here, not quite sure what they are. Cable tie done probably from Alpine, and there's a little hook there for another cable. All these are attached to these ones as well, so I'm hoping that these will eventually go back on the MIB2 unit, and that just then frees up this whole cavity really, and leads me to a question: how the hell do I attach the display onto here? Because I've got everything else hopefully, and I can't see the cable that is for the display, so it looks like I'm gonna have to buy the display cable that gets fed out of here into the MIB unit. I'll have a look around and dig, see if I can find it. If not, it looks like I'm gonna have to go shopping later on. Right, so cable recap, we've got the main Molex here. That is gonna go into that bit there, and then a couple of unknowns. I'm assuming this one is going to go into the aerial socket there. Then we've got this blue one, which I'm assuming is going to go into this blue one. Red to red. And then I might unearth these because I don't really know what colour they are. And if they're a certain colour, I might be able to utilise them, such as this pink one. Not quite sure what that one is, but I'm assuming yellow to yellow. Otherwise, this pink one's going to go into that one if it fits. And then there's dab, which is a different socket altogether. Oh, that's up here, so that'll be the dab. I'll try this this one here. I'm not quite sure if it'll fit, but we'll see. Good news is I've chased a couple of cables that have been tucked away. So we've got this one here, we've got this one here. So this is the MIB2 unit. That's all the various details. This is apparently unlocked. Hopefully as soon as I plug this in, it's going to be plug and play, but we'll find out. It's an MIB2, but it's a 2.5 unit apparently, based on that ID. This carries DAB and things like that, so this one is got more of the bells and whistles than most others, apparently. I'll find out when I plug it in. Fan, hopefully it all powers on. That's that end, and I'm sure it just slides in. Doesn't really. It's got some clips here which you probably have to insert to remove it through these points here to pull it out. It's upside down, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Shiny new display. And luckily it's got the right sockets, so hopefully we don't have to buy any new cables. So that looks like it's going to fit in there. That's this one. pretty spot on. And then there's this one as well. So I think one's like data, one's like power. And you have to make sure you get over 52, H52. Get one that's newer than that, otherwise you're going to get lines coming down the screen. And I got this one from Germany for about €350. Got stung for import of about £120 in the UK, so bear that in mind as well if you were to buy one from the UK, but most of the UK ones are used. This one is only got a few miles on it, and you can get some with 0 miles on it, so it's practically brand new. This has got no scuff marks on it. I just hope it works. Once we plug it in, we'll find out. So, a couple of discoveries. I can't fit this into anything. None of the sockets. I've tried to fit in all the grey, the green and the cream. None of them work. All the other connectors go on just fine. This looks like a optical output for the sub, which we won't need. So at least that's getting power, and this whole thing is powering up, so it's not a dead dog. So that's the good news. Also, by accident, I have this plugged in, and if I press that, I get audio from the system, but there's no display. So I think it's because I can't for the life of me fit this in that socket there. So I'm gonna have to look and see. This is probably the display feed, and this is the data feed. So this is telling what that to do, but this is sort of displaying it. So I'm gonna have to look into what can be done here and go from there, because we might find that one of these sockets here, like the grey one, is the display, which I haven't got now. So I'll do a bit of research and find out. Fitting it, not a problem. These are missing. They were always missing as far as I know. But this display, these little bits here, click into the sides of these bits here. Sorry, turn this off. Clip into the sides here. And I think, yeah, there's like a little cavity there. They'll clip into there and there. So all good. That display will fit. But that's an issue. So I'm going to take some photographs of this, surf the internets and see why I can't fit that. It's so tight, and I don't think it's really meant to go in there as smoothly as this one has. Also, this is the official USB module. It came with this cable, which I just fed through the underside. Comes out through a little bit there, and then it comes out. And on the top, loads of excess, so I might have to sort of tie this up a bit. And then this, I'm assuming, is going to plug into something, but I haven't figured out what exactly yet. And also we've got another one of these, so we'll find out in a minute what this has actually got to go into. Right, I figured it out. So this socket has 2 prongs on either side and one at the bottom, and this unit socket plug, old one, has 2 prongs on the top left, but only one top right, but none up here. So this one here on the bottom right is stopping it from going in, I think. So if we shave that off, it should fit. Do we risk it? Or do we try and convert it? Answers on a postcard, please. Right, it didn't take me long to decide. I've shaved it off now, so you can't really see it. So I'm now going to try and connect it and see if it works. Yep, it fits. Now let's see if it actually shows anything. Right, so a bit of sleuthing. I got this all plugged in, and that needed shaving. This one, I tracked it down as the data cable. All I need to do is shave down this little one here, and then it should fit in this one, which is apparently display, and then this cable should work and display. That's the plan. Going to shave this off, got nothing to lose, and see what happens. Right, so I shaved down this plug, that fits, and we have display. Happy days. So hopefully we've got a working display. So far so good. Radio. Dab seems to be sort of picking up stations. No audio yet though. So GPS is working. Okay, we got something. There we go. This is so much better than mine. Cool. Very happy with that. Right, let's try dab again. There we go.
$19.99 on a plus plan. Plus the flexibility to get a new plan and phone. I didn't realize.
Oh, it's on. Start something real with.
Actually, the dab sounds a lot better as well.
Hiya, what can I get you?
Oh, I'm so
That's cool.
hungry.
Happy with that.
You need a sub.
Settings. Time and date. So that's a bit wrong. Let's do summertime. That's correct. Clock time is done by GPS. That's good. Miles an hour. All good. Got some factory settings. This is a really nice screen as well. Very happy. Bluetooth is all set up. So let's go home. Car's in eco mode, so if we hit the button, we got a nice layout for the driving options. That's good. Let's learn about the vehicle. That's all good as well. Driving data. Yeah, the boot actually is open. Start and stop is on. ESCM's tyres. Set the pressure, because otherwise that's going to go off. Turn speed warning off because that's annoying. Couldn't do that on the Android system. Great, this is nice. This is really cool having all this back again, but in a much better layout. I'm going to try and plug in the module and use wired CarPlay and see if that works. Right, so here's the module. This is just literally going to plug in to the USB part of the module, and then that should all be hunky-dory. This one is basically the aux. That's going to go in there, but I don't think I can actually plug that end in, because aux is probably this, and there's no part on the system for that to plug into, unless it's part of the harness. But let's get some non-copyrighted stuff in. Cool. So that looks like it's working. Album art doesn't come through with Spotify, but not the end of the world. And it's connected to my phone here, so all the calling should work too. And it tracks my battery, Bluetooth as well. And it's got some hand gesture business going on. Cool. So a bit of an anomaly with the USB. I don't know whether the USB is not actually working, or the fact that actually this needs to be connected for it to work. I'm gonna have to Google that and see what's what, and then go from there. All right, I think call that a day, and we'll come back tomorrow with some more knowledge. Right, it's day 2, and we've got a little bit to do and a lot of tidying up to do and putting everything back. Did a little bit of research last night. Turns out I do need to change the clip in the harness. It's very straightforward install, hopefully. So basically I need to change the one that's in the harness, the green one, with this one. And I've done another bit of research. This is basically a, it's called MOST, and it's basically the adapter for an amp. So it's a optical data link to an amp, if you have an amp, basically. I don't, so I don't have to worry about that. I still haven't found out what these two are. I might post on, I found a MIB2.5 group on Facebook, and I might ask them what they actually are in case I want to retrofit whatever they do, because this unit, it did have them covered, these two. So I have a feeling that this unit was basically all bells and whistles, and they basically locked whatever these two do, I think. I don't know, but that's what I think anyway. But the fact that everything else is working, very lucky. Could be a completely different story with a different system, or the products I bought from various people online, because they are secondhand, most of them. So yeah, so this cable here should work once I've replaced the harness cable with this. It should be quite a simple remove and put back in, I'm hoping, but we'll give that a go and see how well that works. And then hopefully CarPlay will then work again, and we can go from there. So here's the harness and the green one that you need to replace. See that little clip here? That little latch here on the top? You basically lift that up with a screwdriver, and then this bit slides out, and then we can either take that up or not use it at all. I'm hoping that a lot of these connectors and things aren't actually being shared. Otherwise we've got to do like a retro sort of adapter that has to sort of combine the bits that I'm missing, or we have to put pins out and put them in elsewhere. But I think all these cables here are basically related to the 30 pin or so connector MMI adapter that I originally had on the MIB1. So hopefully won't need any of this. And then this one will basically slide in the same spot. Right, so I've put the new adapter in. That's very straightforward. The old one that I had on my Alpine, that just unclips there, and the whole thing slides out from the front of the unit itself. So that's in there in situ, all looking all hunky-dory. So let's get this connected up to these little cables here. Right, got to do a quick one because I'm running low on battery. So I'm going to quickly try and do app connect. Connect my phone, hopefully. Got power, good sign. Yeah, I know. Connect to CarPlay. Allow, and we're in CarPlay. Happy days. So now you can see now that my old system only had 8 icons. The CarPlay system now has, and that just is new, nice. Can't even speak, I'm so excited. That is now nice and beautifully done. I am chuffed. Right, quickly power off and get all this back together again. Right, so a couple of things to remember. Make sure that the hose is back into the socket as far as it can go. Also remember this goes back on for the glove box light. So make sure that is re-clipped back in. And then all these hooks, there's a hook down the bottom there. Down the bottom there, that goes in the tray, and then there's a hook down there, that goes in the other hook as well, and then the glove box can kind of like sit on its own a little bit. Right, so I've got 3 of the screws, got the one in the side here, one here and one here installed, just to keep the whole glove box central. I did have one at the back here that I forgot to mention that you have to remove. I couldn't find the screw for that. I won't be screwing that back in, and it really is a difficult screw to get to without a long headed screwdriver. But I did do it originally, but that's I've mislaid that screw somewhere. So we've got all the cables that we need to plug back into the MIB main unit. It also needs a bit of pushing that way, because no way is the unit gonna sit in here with this excess cable inside. I'm gonna have to unscrew everything because this cable is too thick. Right, so I've secured the top 2 again, and now let's try attempt number 2. Right, it needs to clip in. There we go. There we go. We're in. Probably should have tested it before I clipped it in, because I haven't got any keys. But that's the main unit. Everything's plugged in on the side. I can clip the last screw of this in. These cables here, I'm going to tape them up so they're not rattling and hitting each other, and just hide them down in the well there so they're out of the way, and then I can put this back on and finish that bit. Okay, that's in. That's in. So that's all good. So this is the fascia unit. It cost me a little bit more because it comes with the actual air vent part as well. You can just get this fascia part. This is an official part as well. Focus on that. So BG2 815 735 or BG2 819 723, one of the two, or BG2 815 736. It's a German part. It's got the actual module with it as well, which I might replace with. Right, so take the module out. Alright, let's reconnect these. That. Make sure that's all taut. So basically push this inwards until it basically settles in. There you go. And it all should clip in all nicely. Then we pop this back in, like so, and that should still work. Yep. And we now have to pop this back on. Oh, before I do that, we've got to put the side panel back on. So got to make sure the cables are right, and sort that out. Okay, it's hiding the cable a bit, but that's all in and sorted. Got a couple more screws left that has to go into the glove box, which I'll do a bit later. This panel can then go back on. That's all on. We're nearly there. So, and that's it installed. So we get fired up again.
Love Chris Evans. Love Graham Norton.
Love music.
Virgin Radio.
Navigation announcement volume. Navigation announcement volume. Route guidance is not active.
Dental appliances, you can even get something now that actually sits like a pacemaker, sits under the skin and
This is Anthony from CarPlayLife.com, and this is an audio test using the MIB 2.5 OEM head unit, and this is an audio test using the pre-installed microphone in the Golf.
You can change navigation volume with your car's controls, but only when navigation is speaking. You can change navigation volume with your car's controls, but only when navigation is speaking. Head northwest on Stanmer Avenue, then turn left to stay on Stanmer Avenue.
You held a party in your hand like it would slip away like moments past. How I miss the way you used to laugh. Is that the way it goes? You trade your soul to
Right, so I finished the install. Everything went pretty flawless. Just that little bit of research overnight just to see what I could do with the existing connectors, which basically just needed shaving down. I didn't have to buy any new cables as I might have expected at the very beginning. If you're thinking of doing this install, then your experience might vary, for worse most likely, because for better, I've not really had any problems, touch wood. I bought a copy protected removed MIB 2.5 unit, so I knew that I wasn't going to get any friction on that end and I didn't have to do any coding. the whole thing was completely unlocked. So all the features, CarPlay, navigation and so on was unlocked. So that's probably aided this whole install being so smooth running. I knew I had to get that USB module. I don't think it would have worked with my Alpine module without any form of adapters. So I'm glad I actually bought that module as well, which is important if you want to use CarPlay. Now, being a 2.5 system, it's not a wireless CarPlay system. So what I've done, I sort of dug out the most fastest wireless adapter that I've tested recently, and that's the TNVTEC wireless dongle, and connected fine, connected quick. I think what I'll do in the future, I'll do a video on wireless adapters specifically for this system. If you've got a VW with a MIB2 or 2.5 system, I'll be checking that and making sure that the resolution is consistent, the audio quality is good, and just general boot times. So if you're interested in checking that out, keep watching on my channel, and I should hopefully have that video out sometime after this one. But generally really happy with the install. The system is beautiful, very quick, very fast and rapid. Obviously a lot more modern than what the original Mark 7 would have come with. It's a big investment, and it's also a big feature should you want to sell the car on with a system like that installed. So it's a bit of an asset as well if you were thinking of going this route. The 9-inch is definitely more compact. It's not a lot more full in height, so you do suffer based on other Android devices that are bigger screens. But considering you can't get a 9-inch, well, anything bigger than 9-inch in an official way as such, then this is actually worth checking out as a very viable option. As I said, I don't really know if anyone's actually done a MIB3 install with wireless CarPlay. I'm not using the optical link either, or any of those other two ports. They're just completely bare bones and dead to me at the moment. I'm happy with the way the sound is in this stereo. It's not a Dyna Audio or Dyna Audio Pro system. It doesn't have a subwoofer. It's not a Fender system either. That's in America. So I'm happy with how it sounds. Playing through the wireless dongle perfectly. It's really nice and rapid as well with this dongle on this system, and it keeps the resolution intact. It's all very high resolution, looks great, not much if any sort of degradation to the actual screen itself. So I'll be sticking with this dongle until it potentially fails on me. I've got a whole entire side glove box full of dongles that I'll probably drip feed in and swap them out and see how they perform in the future with this system as well, so I can test them all out. My hidden charging cable still works fine. Put it down the side of the console so it's nice and discreet. Comes out the air vent on the right hand side for me, plugs into my quad lock vent mount, which is powered, so that's all stable. The mount actually is a little bit more higher now based on my Android system. It kind of covered the Android system, but because it's a bit more narrower, it's not really blocking anything from my driving position of the screen now, so that's really, really good. Another massive plus going this route is that the middle multifunctional display has now come back to life again, where it is all completely lost with the Alpine, and the Android didn't make any use of it either. So now I've got radio stations back again, so you can actually see them on the little mini display without having to look to the left. That's back. It still just shows you Apple CarPlay. When you're in CarPlay, it doesn't actually do any information from things like navigation. Unfortunately, that is quite a modern trait in the systems. Maybe the MIB3 might have done it, but the 2.5 doesn't do it. But I'm really loving the display. I need to go out a bit and test out the GPS to make sure that's all working, but it has tracked me in the navigation app, so I didn't have any problems there either. I did buy an ODB 11 Pro license because I thought I had to re-enable the USB. I don't really need that now, but I think I'll keep it because it'd be good to just browse the logs and see what other features I can actually implement with this system or with the Golf in general. Plus, I need to swap out a battery soon because it's running dead on me and its health is not very good anymore. So I'm going to have to swap out the battery, and I've got that to code the battery with once I install it myself. But overall, really good install. Didn't take long, probably a day and, well, less than a day. You could probably do it in a day. The longest time was just feeding the USB cable through the central compartment. That was the longest bit of the whole entire install and the most fiddliest bit. And also probably the second most fiddliest bit was getting the wiring harness in where the MIB unit used to be, because Alpine had played with it before, and how I shoved it everywhere in with the Android install. I had to reroute the cables so they all fitted properly. But as you saw earlier, it slid in afterwards. As long as you feed it from the top and not through the side, that all fitted perfectly fine. I've not tested any DVDs because it does have a DVD drive and CD drive, SD cards as well as the SIM. So I still need to play around with that and give it a internet connection. You've got things like VW Media, which works with tablet apps apparently, and also you've also got something called CarNet. Not really sure what that is. I've connected it to my local Wi-Fi here, not to a hotspot on my phone, but it's still checking online services, unfortunately. So that might take a while. It says it takes a few minutes, but it's been nearly 15 minutes now and it hasn't really updated anything. Yeah, sound, air conditioning works perfectly fine. Visually looks good too. Let's test that just to make sure it actually does work. That's all cool and working. I find it a little bit frustrating that there's no back button on certain areas of the menu UI. I don't know if that's something that they change in the future, but that's just a little bit of a niggle. DAB's been working way better than the Android version, which was using like a USB dongle, and it was just really flaky. So it's back to how it used to be with the stock system, and also the Alpine system ran pretty well as well. It populates it with tiles and images, so that's really cool. Didn't have that before. Even populates it with FM stations. It will download all the images for the stations. And the FM signal is way better than the Android system had as well, which is pretty much obsolete how I used it. And just CarPlay works perfectly with and without the dongle. So the audio I think is pretty perfect to me. Sounds fantastic using the microphones in the car existing wherever they are. Yeah, very happy. Costed a bit overall, but I think it's worth it with the stock. If I were to do it again between the Android and this, I'm really not missing out on anything personally. And if I did want to play things like YouTube, I can get one of these AI boxes and run the AI boxes through the system instead and have the best of both worlds. And plus, one of the other main big ones for me for doing this install was now I can come back to doing some of these dongle reviews in the car in the right environment rather than through something that's not really connected properly. I can then check wheel controls and just general GPS type based stuff as well. So expect a little bit more depth in with future dongle reviews as well that I'll be doing on the channel. Alright, so I hope you found this video helpful. And should you be thinking about doing this install yourself, leave a comment and let me know if you have any questions that I might be able to answer. You can check out some of my other installs in this Golf should you want to do the Alpine or an Android system. You can check out my links down below for those. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.